Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is a pastor, fitness expert, and author of the nonfiction book, The Gospel of Fitness, A Rational Approach to Aging Gracefully. His name is Steve McKinney, and my interview with Steve will follow the note-taking sounds. Steve McKinney, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
I am glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
You started your fitness business out of your garage. What was that journey like, and how did it shape your approach to fitness today?
Great question. So here was the journey. So there was a local gym that we all went to, a bunch of buddies and myself, and we would lift, we'd all lift together. Well, what happened was that gym closed down. And so I just decided, I'm like, well, I don't feel like going to another gym and going through that whole thing. So I just started converting my garage to like my own gym. And then what I did was I got a business license in a residential area, and I just started having monthly memberships. And so at one point, I had up to 50 people. Now, I wasn't a big fan. My neighbors didn't like me that much, to be honest with you, because we had all these people coming in and out in this residential area. And I was taking the parking. And so I was getting a lot of complaints. So that's kind of where we started. And then in the middle of that, what happened was I just noticed everyone had questions. Hey, how can you set up a diet for me? Can you set up a training program for me? And so as I started looking at that, I'm like, man, I'm spending a lot of time personally working with people. And this was over 30 years ago. And so I decided it might be a good idea just to cut out the monthly memberships and go to one-to-one private personal training. So that's kind of how everything started and how everything morphed from there. Does all that make sense?
Yes, it does. Your book is titled The Gospel of Fitness. Without spoiling too much about it, what is it about?
Okay, so what it is kind of like my personal journey. So over a period of time, when I started training those clients, what I would do is I would keep track of everything. I would keep track of the sets, the reps, how long the workout took, what kind of progress were people getting, what kind of results were they getting. And I just started keeping track of everything. And then what I realized was I could make this way more efficient. So I just began to put these workouts together, and I started getting really good results with people. But here's the crazy thing. I did that within a 15-minute period. So I kept track of everything. Then what I did with the book is I just started telling my story, kind of what happened, kind of like what I'm talking about right now. Here's kind of what happened. Here is the direction we're going. So I explained my whole system. I invented a system from that whole thing. And the system is called the 3W approach to fitness. And it's weight training, walking, and watching your diet. And then I put that into context and showed people how to do it. And they started getting, once again, great results. So I wrote about it. And that book kind of took off as well. So it's been pretty cool to be a part of that little journey that I didn't know would go in that direction.
Why does your 3W approach to fitness, which you described moments ago, work well for long-term health?
Here's one of the biggest reasons. It is the infrequency of workouts while getting great results. Here's what I mean. So most people think, hey, I'm going to start an exercise program. I'm going to work out 5 days a week. I'll be in the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to work out an hour a day. And my thought on that is, man, that's like a part-time job. And, people, I call it going in like a lion and out like a lamb. And generally what you'll see people doing this at the beginning of each year. Big box gyms, what they do is they sell all of their memberships within the first few months of the year. And then for the rest of the year, they don't make that much money, but they made so much up front from the people who signed up and didn't show up. That's how they make their money. And so for me, what I did was I started doing the one-to-one private personal training. And I noticed that if I can get people in 2 days a week and they work out for 15 minutes, literally 15 minutes at a time, I show them how to diet. I have them take a 30-minute walk per day. They get just as good as results, if not better. And they don't wear their body out. They don't overtrain their body. Everything seems to work much, much better because they are properly training, and they're properly training with a focus. Actually give them a plan on what to do. And honestly, it just works like a charm. I've literally had people that have trained with me for over 30 years. That's how well it works.
The weight training portion of your workouts only take 15 minutes twice a week.
Yes.
How is that enough to achieve noticeably improved fitness?
What a good question. That's a very insightful question. And let me explain. So when you lift weights, you have 4 different muscle fiber types. And the goal of weight training, it's not just how much weight you can lift for how many reps you can lift that for. The goal of weight training is to deeply stimulate muscle. In order to do that, what you have to do, I use a principle, and the principle is called time under tension. And so what you do is you keep your muscles engaged. You keep them tense during the whole part of the movement or the exercise we're doing. And then what you do is you connect your mind to the muscle. Now, as I said earlier, you have 4 different muscle fiber types. They're fast oxidative, slow oxidative, fast oxidative glycolytic, and fast glycolytic. And the deepest muscle fiber type with the most muscle bundles, and it's also the hardest to stimulate is called fast glycolytic. Now, that is the 4th muscle fiber type. In order to stimulate that, what you have to do is you have to fatigue the first 3 that I just mentioned. And in order to do that, you have to keep the muscle under tension the whole time. So what happens if you go to a gym and you watch somebody work out, they'll do 10 to 12 reps, and they'll do that in 20 seconds. For me, what I do is I keep the muscle loaded for the client for 60 to 90 seconds. And in doing so, we get to that 4th muscle fiber type. Now, here's what's interesting with that, Aaron. On the 4th muscle fiber type, once you stimulate it, it takes 4 to 7 days to recover from. And that's why I can scientifically get people stronger and get them great results, because we stimulate the muscles very, very deeply. And the deeper you stimulate them, the longer it takes to recover. So when people go into the gym and they never get to that 4th muscle fiber type, that's why they can work out daily and still come back, but they don't see tons of results. For us, what we do, once we stimulate that muscle fiber type, it takes that period of time to recover. And so we let that recovery happen. The next 3-4 days later, they're in the gym, they're doing it again. And that's kind of how it works. And that's why it has scientific background to it. And it gets people to get stronger, which is the whole goal, because as we get older, the number one thing that we lose is we lose strength. So that's kind of how we approach it. Does all that make sense?
You are both a pastor and a fitness expert. How do faith and fitness connect in your philosophy?
So here's what I would say. I would say that we're all connected. We're physically and spiritually connected. And so I think that having a proper faith, and, like being a pastor, what I notice with people is there's a connection between spiritual health and physical health and mental health. And also I use the physical part of that because we're connected. The workouts themselves, they reduce stress as well. And so, you having the spiritual background, we're given this beautiful thing called the body. It's a created body. And our job is to do our best to take care of this gift that we've been given. And so that to me is how they connect. And I also think that the better you take care of yourself physically, the better you're going to be spiritually. So I think it's just it goes back and forth. And I think it's all interconnected in the middle of it all. Because I think that the physical aspect of our lives are just so important in every single way. And it does help with our spiritual aspect.
What motivated you to write your book, The Gospel of Fitness?
Another great question. So I have a personal training business and I have a lot of clients. And so what I do with those clients, I have a, private Facebook page. It's called The Gospel of Fitness Inner Circle. And with that private page, what I do is I just give information out to people who are my normal clients. So I just started gathering information. I never intended just to write a book. All I was going to do was put all this information together, and then I was going to put it out there, maybe in an ebook form or something like that to give to my clients. Well, a few years back, I went to a conference in Florida. It was a pastor's conference. And one of my friends, he's a pastor as well. He knew I was a trainer. He asked me to take him to the gym and to show him some stuff on working out. So I took him to the gym and he just bought in totally. He said that was the best workout he ever had. So over the years, he would have me on his podcast. He would always ask me questions. And one day he's asking me questions, and I go, "Hey, man, I got a book that I've written. I'm about 90% done. I could just send that over to you." He goes, "Well, that's interesting." He says, "We have a small publishing company." He goes, "Go ahead and send your book over. And, we've known each other for years. And if we like what we see, we'll work with you." Well, that is what happened. They loved what they saw. They published the book for me, set up a book tour. I did a Florida tour. I did one over in St. Louis that's near me. I do local stuff. I just did a local fitness presentation last night. So all those things, they all kind of came together, in a just a really weird fashion. But it all kind of came together, even though my intent wasn't to write the book. It just kind of came together, and all of a sudden it started doing really well. It hit number one on Amazon in a couple of different categories. So yeah, it's just been a fun journey, and that's kind of how it came about.
How long did it take you to write your book from start to finish?
Man, that's hard to say, but it's definitely over a year. But then I really, over when I did get the go, to get it over to him to get it published, I put my nose to the grindstone for about 3 months and made sure everything was the way I wanted it. We have a home workout in the book. We have a gym workout in the book. I took pictures before and after, starting a movement, finishing it. And then what I also did was I made sure that I gave good descriptions in everything. And then I set up an 8-week workout for people just to get them off the ground, showed diets, showed exactly all the science behind why we walk after dinner, all of those things. And so I would say it was over a year, but the last 90 days were where I put my nose to the grindstone and really went after it.
What are the easiest and hardest aspects of writing a book for you?
No, I think a lot of it is just kind of getting out what's in you out on paper. What I mean by that is I'll have people, and after you write a book, a lot of people contact you on how you did it and what you did and how you went about it. And so, and I always just say, if you want to write a book, just get in front of a computer and write a page or two a day, but write what's in your heart and get that on paper. And so the hardest thing for me was to communicate in logical order what I wanted people to understand. And that was the hardest part. But here's what's interesting. When I sat down to really write the book over the last 3 months, I thought to myself, I don't even know how to write a book, but I do know how to write a sermon. And so what I did was I put the book in like a sermon format that I do every week, and it just turned out perfectly like that. And so I put it in categories, I put it in topics, and it really, really worked well. And so I've had some people reach out to me to write a second book, and I do have one in my mind, but boy, it's a lot of work behind the scenes. And so I'm just kind of hesitant to jump in that direction until I just, this one's been good and I'm just keeping it out there right now. And that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Is the Gospel of Fitness independently, traditionally, or hybrid published?
It is traditionally published. I have an actual actual publisher that does it. And so it's a traditional published book.
Okay, you mentioned that you have a second book in the works. Without spoiling too much of it, I understand it might be a while before it's published. But could you provide a bit of a preview of it?
Absolutely. So here's over the months, the past 6 months or so, going on tour, and just what I do is I'll do a presentation on the benefits of what I offer in the book, and then I do question and answer. And the one thing that I noticed is when I wrote the book, I made it I just cast a wide net. And so what you're going to do, I put it to you like this. It's kind of like going to a store and buying a suit. You look at the suit on a rack, you like the suit, you try it on, and you realize the suit needs tailored. And so what I mean by the exercise program, I put a wide net out there for people. And what I realized was it's done them very, very well, but there's some nuances to each individual person. And so in the next book, the idea then is to teach people to become their own trainer and to be able to explain things in that way, because not every exercise fits every person. And so what I have to do then is teach people, hey, how do you set up a diet that is individualized? How do you set up a workout that is individualized? So it's going to be more on how to be your own trainer, how to be your own nutritionist, and how to create your own workouts behind the scenes. And in doing that, there's some different techniques, different intensity techniques that you can use. And so that's my game plan. That's my idea moving forward.
As a fitness instructor, you've logged over 150,000 personal training sessions. I understand. I'm guessing that you don't have as many unique clients as that.
No. It's so here's how you figure that out. I did for almost 20 years. I did over 100 appointments per week. And so if you add those up, and I still do, I probably saw 15 people this morning in the gym. But if you add that up over the years, you're looking at 5,000, sessions a year over 20 years, 25 years. You're logging in some sessions there. And so I think I'm in my 34th or 35th year of training. And so I'm still logging those sessions, and you don't think of it like it could be that many, but it literally is that many clients or that many sessions. And yeah, not that many clients, but we're probably over the years, I'm sure we're over 1,000 clients in doing so. So we see a lot of unique clients in the middle of it.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned from working with so many people?
Yeah, I think there's several. One of them is trying to sort through the plethora of information that's on the internet now, and trying to take all of that information and narrow it down to something that's actually logical, like my program. So when a client comes in, the biggest problem I have is to unpack what they think is true with what really is true. That's one of the things. Another thing that I've noticed, this is a big deal. One of the things with AI, and a subtitle of my book is A Rational Approach to Aging Gracefully. So one of the things that I noticed is most people have really bad joints, and a lot of bad joints come from improper training. And I've had so many people come to me with injuries because they had a trainer that had them flipping tires, or they're at the gym and they're jumping on boxes. And all those things are fine, but as you get older, they're not fine anymore because they cause injuries. And so trying to get people to understand to save your joints is vitally important for your long-term health and fitness. Having bad joints, it's obviously going to mess your whole body up. And so getting people to understand that excessive exercise isn't the answer. The right amount of exercise is the answer. And exercise in and of itself isn't the greatest way to lose body fat. The greatest way to lose body fat is to reduce your caloric intake as a whole, counting the number of calories that you take in and having an idea. And so educating people on those particular points are really, really important. Now, I do have, several success stories, and one of the stories that come to mind, and this goes back to another problem that people have. A lot of people work out too much. They think that working out more is the answer. And as I said earlier, working out the proper amount is the answer. And so I had a young lady who they were recently married and they were trying to get pregnant. And they were just unsuccessful for so long. Well, they had asked me, to look at their exercise program. And what was happening was this lady was training 4 days a week and she was running up to 13 miles a day. So I explained, I said, hey, listen, your cortisol levels are through the roof from overtraining. So if you just follow, let's cut you down to 2 days a week. And instead of running, I want you just to start walking. And I don't want you to walk for more than 30, 40 minutes at the most. Don't spend so much time with your workouts. Lower your cortisol levels. And the greatest part of that was a few months later, they reached out and said that she had gotten pregnant. So I'm proud of that one because it's just taking a general principle of overtraining and applying it to a person's life and watching the results happen. So there's a lot of things that you see, but trying to unpack some of the falsehoods that are on the internet is one of the biggest problems that I have.
Steve, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were a wonderful guest to interview.
Well, thank you so much. And it was such a pleasure to be on it. And you're a great interviewer. So thank you so much.
If you are ever in doubt about whether any fitness regimen or program is right for you, feel free to consult a physician. With that said, it was wonderful to interview Steve, and I look forward to uploading the remaining episodes of Season 9 over the rest of this month, as well as throughout March and April. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.